So, weird little fact for you. This Toycember was almost going to be called Toycember XL because I was going to focus on like normal sized toys and above rather than the tiny figures that this marathon of mine typically covers. And I decided, I kind of want to just do a mix. So let's just call it normal Toycember and then just surprise everybody when, something this big shows up on the stage. So this is the Gamerverse version of Juggernaut from Marvel Legends. This is the brand new version of the character. I've been after a good Juggernaut for a hot minute, so this came at exactly the right time. But it is a very expensive piece of plastic as it is a gigantic action figure. So let's do a quick review of it just to see if it is actually worth that. For head design, you got that big crimson dome, which of course looks pretty good. There's a little bit of texturing to it to make it look a little bit more like hammered metal. And then, of course, you can see the eyes and teeth of Juggernaut poking through. Yeah, it's almost, you can look around the edges. I mean, it looks like there might be a full head in there that's just glued onto the helmet. However, this is designed to work. Looks pretty good. Works pretty good as well. Show you that when we get to the articulation rundown. You can see in the chest there is a little bit of subtle paint there, a little bit of airbrushing just to bring out the actual shape of his muscles, which is always kind of weirds me out that it pokes through the armor, but there you go. The midsection has that kind of quilted sweater-ish appearance, like whatever Juggernaut's got going on down there. It is rough textured, so it definitely feels like woven mesh or something of that nature. And again, you can see the shape of his abs through it. Man is so chiseled that even steel, even like a chainmail is wrapping around to show how the musculature of this character. Down here, speaking of the muscles, the legs also show very, very heavy sculpted detail. Again, a little bit of subtle airbrushing to bring out the intersections of it as well. And then if we go all the way down to said feet, we've got those big old boots of his, painted soles, complete on the underside as well. And toward the arms, yeah, huge arms. And they continue that kind of hammered metal texture across the armbands and the forearms and the knuckle dusters. So, yeah, a lot of good detail going on here. Looking good in the back, too. Juggernaut, I probably shouldn't have done that. Juggernaut, caked up just for those who need that in your Juggernaut toys. I'm not judging. So, big man, big action figure. We need to scale this. So, here we go. That is a standard Marvel legend. And that is one of the few Marvel characters who's going to be able to survive whatever Juggernaut's got in mind. Yeah, you're looking at someone who would stand she's 11 feet tall or so compared to your normal Marvel hero. Yeah, just a little bit big. Just a little bit big. So, I can get into let me get into the articulation just so you know what's going on here before we get into the accessories, because he does have a few. So the head does have rotation. You can get it to go all the way around. The plastic of the helmet is actually a little bit malleable, so it kind of bends along the torso and the chest in order to shape correctly as it's moving around the head. That way it's not obstructing anything. It can still move the neck pretty fine. Great little attention to detail, good thought to have. In the arms, we do have a butterfly joint. Just crazy. I normally associate butterfly joints with more agile characters. So having them in a Juggernaut's kind of great, because now you get these big haymaker punches in his posability. Universal shoulders as well. Despite being meaty, they have a full natural range of motion. You have a bicep rotation as well, though it's very stiff. Very stiff, but you can turn the arms. The elbows also have a rotation, as well as a 90-degree bend, or as much as his big meat hooks can actually create. And then you also have wrist rotation, as well as a wrist bend. Again, articulation I would normally associate with a more svelte character, but here I guess they just had the space in the mold to do it. Now, he also has an ab crunch. So you can lower and raise his torso. The torso also does rotate. He does not have a waist joint, but what you can do is rotate the torso. Unfortunately, the torso waist motion is so stiff, though. The only way I can actually rotate his chest is by flexing it up and down and then turning it while I do. So it's not the most efficient method of articulating a figure. It does ultimately work. You can accomplish it. So yes, there is a rotation in his chest. It is just an awkward one. Now, if we go down to the legs, he does have universally jointed legs, so you do have motion in there. The thickness of the legs does hinder things, at least on mine. His left leg seems a little bit more limited than the right. For like whatever reason, like that leg does not want to rotate up as high as the other one, which is a little bit frustrating. I feel like I might be... It was one of those where like it feels like the plastic is getting stuck or something. The outward motion works just fine, though. So you have that. You have the thigh rotation on both sides. Yep, you got rotation just above the knee, as well as a bend. It's not 90 degree, because how could you manage that on this guy? You do have the ankle tilt, which goes forward and back as well. Though, yeah, it's, again, a very stiff joint. And you need it to be a stiff joint on this big guy. And then a toe bend, just in case you can actually get him into a pose that needs it. So, yeah, very surprisingly well articulated for his enormous bulk. Very, very happy to see. So, aside from that, yeah, incredibly articulated for the mass. Let's see what else we can do. So, for starters, he does have alternate hands. So, we plug this one in. So he's got one big grasping hand, and then he has one that's kind of a little bit open. So we'll go ahead and pop the right, and then pop this in as well. So yeah, so if you want to pose him holding onto another Marvel Legend, or just reaching out for him as part of the posing, that is something you can do as well. Now, he does have one other accessory, though it's a little bit more dubious to use. He does come with this effect part, which, you know, recreates like his attack effects when he's in a fight in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now, in order to actually use this, I am going to have to unclip one of those brass knuckles, or whatever that's made out of, and then wedge this in, using those as kind of the socket for those little hinge points. And then we'll go ahead and plug this back on. Plug that in, and now you do have like a punching effect, which is pretty good, don't get me wrong. We go ahead and get him into a pose. It looks like he is suitably using it. There we go. There we go. That works for me. That works a lot for me. Now, the back of the packaging also shows it on his helmet, so you can recreate his head crush from the game, which is pretty much, I believe, his most iconic of his attacks in that game. Unfortunately, I cannot for the life of me figure out how to attach it that way. Obviously, there's no grooves for those hinge points to latch onto. You could probably stick one in his mouth, but there's nothing on the back to compensate for that. So, unfortunately, I've never really figured out how to use it for that. The photographer might have been playing around a little bit with one that didn't have that hinge piece plugged into it. But mine, I can't remove the hinge to try it myself. So that is going to be where we leave it. So that is your Gamerverse Juggernaut. As far as Marvel action figures go, he's got a pretty full range of motion and articulation, which I would expect. If you're comparing him to like a normal Marvel Legend, obviously the accessory count is a little bit lower. Okay, it's a good bit lower. You've only got two hands and one blast effect, essentially. But the toy itself is what a Juggernaut fan could always hope for. I mean, it's well articulated, looks the part, and yeah, it's a fun figure to mess around if you just need that big Goliath in your collection. So Yeah, I'll let you decide whether or not a $65 price point is worth it for someone just for mass, because that's really what you're buying the toy for, is just overwhelming mass. And that is going to be the review for the day. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you for tomorrow's Toycember review.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.